As a 24-year-old male with OCD and somewhere on the autism spectrum, I faced challenges and tough times growing up. I struggle with understanding body language and often feel socially awkward, making it tough to connect romantically, leading to minimal success in dating. During college, I had a bad relationship that made me avoid dating for years. After moving for a new job, I cautiously gave dating another shot. Setting up an online dating profile led me to connect with Jessica, a lovely woman living nearby. Surprisingly, our first date went exceptionally well, leading to a blossoming relationship. I started developing strong feelings for her, even contemplating if she could be the one. But my intentions were never to seek revenge against her. I've heard plenty of revenge tales centered around cheating exes, but mine's different. It's about my twin sister, Julie. She always saw herself as the normal one and took on a protective role for me growing up. But as I became more independent, her hovering started to feel suffocating. While I appreciated her care, I resented being treated like a perpetual child. Julie faced tough times in college, dealing with a nervous breakdown and barely graduating with a C average. In contrast, I excelled academically, securing a great job with the federal government. I never flaunted my success or aimed to belittle her, but Julie seemed to perceive my achievements as a challenge to the natural order of things. Throughout our upbringing, I was the one grappling with challenges while she effortlessly succeeded. That dynamic persisted for over 2 decades until things changed, and she couldn't handle it. I never viewed our lives as a competition, but she did, and losing was something my sister detested. Yet, in one aspect, Julie outshone me in matters of romance. She found and married her husband years ago, and though I was genuinely happy for them, she took pleasure in flaunting it whenever I visited our family during vacations. Her continuous remarks about my perpetual singleness deeply wounded me. When I confronted her and pleaded for it to stop, she dismissed it with laughter, adopting a passive-aggressive and spiteful demeanor whenever she saw fit. Eventually, we drifted apart, a mistake on my part. Perhaps if I had maintained communication, I would have recognized the extent of her jealousy and bitterness. This continued until I met my girlfriend. By the time I invited her to join my family for the holidays, I was convinced that Jessica and I had something truly special. Excitement surged within me as we flew home, eager for her to meet my parents and grandmother. Upon arriving and introducing her, everyone welcomed her warmly, and I was certain this Christmas would be the highlight of my life. Julie seemed set on turning it into a nightmare. As I mentioned earlier, she viewed love as a competition, one where she could boast about her victory until now. Jessica became a threat to the remnants of our old sibling hierarchy in her eyes, so Julie aimed to remove her from the equation. Initially, my Christmas break felt like a dream. Everyone adored Jessica, and we were having an incredible time together. From snowball fights to Christmas shopping, we did it all. Surprisingly, even Julie appeared to be treating me better. I felt invincible, like I was soaring high above everything. Then everything unraveled. I own a personal laptop for gaming and other activities, which Jessica also enjoyed, so naturally, I brought it along for the trip. On Christmas, my grandmother gifted me some new games, and the day after, Jessica and I stayed up late playing them together. She eventually retired to bed as she got tired, but I wanted to continue for a while. The mistake came when, at 2 a.m., utterly exhausted, I forgot to shut down my laptop before crashing myself. When I woke up, Jessica was still asleep, prompting me to head downstairs for a late breakfast. Julie was already seated at the table but remained quiet until my girlfriend emerged an hour later. After her meal, Jessica requested to use my laptop for a while, and I agreed. My laptop was placed on a folding card table in the living area, so I heard her settle down to play. However, moments later, she suddenly exclaimed a series of profanities, hastily standing up and nearly toppling the chair. I inquired about the matter, but she remained silent. Instead, she stormed over, raised her hand, and struck me across the face, tears streaming down her cheeks. I was utterly stunned, speechless at the sudden turn of events. As I grappled to understand what was happening, Jessica began packing her belongings. Desperate to know the reason behind her actions, I pleaded with her, but she remained tight-lipped. I approached my laptop to investigate and found all the browser tabs were placed with explicit content from adult dating and porn sites. A surge of nausea hit me, the shock reverberating through my body. Growing up in a conservative household, Jessica and I had mutually agreed to remain abstinent until marriage. There was no way I would betray that trust, yet the screen depicted a scene contrary to my principles, painting me as someone I'm not, a secret consumer of explicit content. It hit me then that Julie must have sneaked onto my laptop while I was asleep and orchestrated this. I even caught a glimpse of what seemed like a smug smirk on her face, though she swiftly concealed it when she noticed my gaze. It was heart-wrenching, and I was desperate to explain, but Jessica refused to listen. She ended things on the spot, hastily booking a flight out of town and checking into a hotel. My attempts to reach out through calls and texts were met with swift blocks. My relationship crumbled, and I feared losing my parents and grandmother if they discovered Julie's actions. Luckily, my parents had hurriedly left for some errands that morning, and my grandmother was still asleep. I was painfully aware of Julie's actions, and she knew that I knew. Yet, I also realized I couldn't prove it. The sense of heartbreak, betrayal, and devastation lingered. Surrounded by the ruins of my relationship with Jessica, I vowed to exact revenge on my sister for her actions. However, I understood that Julie anticipated retaliation. So, despite the difficulty, I restrained myself. I played the role of a defeated, shattered individual consumed by heartache, all while silently observing Julie's behaviors. I found ways to be nearby when she accessed her devices. My vacation neared its end, allowing me only a glimpse of a few characters and her passwords and passcodes, but it was a start. I knew that given time, Julie would lower her guard, and when that moment arrived, I would be prepared. For the next year and a half, each visit home became a mission to unravel more of Julie's computer and cell phone access codes. Surprisingly, Julie never altered these codes, and I maintained absolute silence about the Jessica incident. Slowly, I pieced together fragments of her login credentials, patiently accumulating every letter and number. Just a day before departing from my recent visit home, I finally possessed all the necessary information. With ample time since Jessica's departure to contemplate my plan, I wasted no time executing it. That very night, under the cover of darkness while everyone slept, I donned gloves, stealthily retrieved Julie's phone from her bedside, then proceeded downstairs to access both her laptop and phone. The sheer satisfaction of seeing her entire life laid bare at my fingertips filled me with a sinister delight that's indescribable. Through a few exploratory searches on her laptop, my suspicions were confirmed. Julie relied on cached passwords to bypass memory struggles, a habit heightened after her nervous breakdown. Her computer held access to everything: Amazon, games, emails, each password conveniently stored. Delightfully, I embarked on a mission to obliterate it all. With a scorched earth approach, I left nothing untouched, decimating files and erasing traces on her phone and laptop. Her iTunes account? Obliterated. The extensive Kindle collection on Amazon? Erased. The libraries within her Steam and Origin gaming accounts? Annihilated without a trace. I redirected my attention to her social media realm, particularly her active engagement on Tumblr. Knowing her limited real-life connections, I embarked on a vile campaign, sending repugnant messages to her online friends and flooding her page with hateful, derogatory content, ensuring her perpetual ostracization in the digital sphere. I meticulously wiped out every trace of her written work in Microsoft Word, including her stories and fanfiction, permanently deleting them and clearing the recycle bin to prevent any recovery. To escalate matters, I used her professional email to craft a scathing letter to Julie's boss, vividly expressing Julie's sentiments in the most colorful language I could muster. With precision, I covered my tracks, erasing any evidence of my actions, then blocked the boss's email and number from Julie's phone. Upon her return to work, she'd encounter a brutal shock. As a final touch, I altered the passcodes for her phone and laptop, adding insult to injury. By the time she could reset them, irreversible damage would already be done. The only aspect I left untouched was her bank account, although it held little to tamper with. Surveying my handiwork with a nod, I silently retreated upstairs. After placing Julie's phone back in its original spot, I slipped into bed and slept soundly, feeling content with my actions. The following morning, my early departure prevented me from witnessing the aftermath firsthand, but the news that followed was both satisfying and intense. Julie sought assistance from Best Buy and the Apple Store, seeking solutions for her phone and laptop, only to face near turmoil upon finally accessing her devices and discovering my actions. Swift repercussions followed. Julie's boss terminated her upon her return to work, ensuring she faced significant challenges securing future employment. Her Tumblr community unanimously blocked her, spreading the word about her actions, rendering her a social outcast on the platform. With limited options, she became reliant on her husband, eventually transitioning into an unemployed homemaker, a devastating hit to her pride and what remained of her self-worth. The impact on someone who prided themselves on being a strong and independent woman feels like an almost unbearable fate. Days after my departure, she called, unleashing a tirade, but I remained silent and blocked her. While she suspects it was me, my meticulous cover-up leaves her powerless to expose the truth to our parents or create a scene within the family, exposing her true nature. I harbor no remorse. My sleep remains undisturbed, knowing I've held her accountable for her actions against me and Jessica. If anything, I still believe she hasn't endured enough, eagerly awaiting any opportunity to bring her further suffering. There will be ample tears shed before I'm done, and I'll revel in every drop. As an additional note, Julie also gained weight after losing her job. How do you like this story? Write about it in the comments. Let's get 1,000 subscribers on the channel. Love you.